math actually discouraged from going into the classroom. If you consider the situation in which a bright, young lady or gentleman who enters college is facing a choice of what career they're going to follow. And if they look to the career in education today, they find that the pay that's available to them is very unattractive. It isn't any wonder that the math and science teachers who should be in our classroom are leaving the classrooms and going off to industry. Because quite frankly, there's a critical problem with salaries. And I would like to urge that we take a position of providing a special critical salary supplement for math and science teachers. And that ought to be a supplement based upon the merit of development within the classroom. You can wonder, can that be done? And frankly, it's not an easy situation because there are very, very strong forces in our country that would say rather than single out a special group, we ought to change the salary level for all teachers. And I would be very, very strongly supportive of changing the salary level for all teachers. However, the billions of dollars that will take tends to stop us from doing anything. Rather than focus upon the billions of dollars, I would urge that we focus upon the few dollars that can critically be placed in helping math and science teachers today. Let's support those good teachers to be in the classroom. Now again, I ask you, can that be done? And I think it can be done very well. You know, today we hear about the problems in engineering education. And we find that in our engineering schools throughout this country, that we do not have enough of the faculty that we'd like to have in the engineering schools. And that's an urgent problem also. And I want to share with you a particular solution that I know will work because, frankly, I'm doing it. At our institution, we ask our students to pay more money for engineering education. And in turn, that money is used for critical salaries back to our faculty. Now, I don't know that you can go to the high schools and ask the high school students to pay more money. But I suggest to you it is very possible to give a small increase in salary and have a major impact in saying to our math and science teachers that they're important. And if you can really compete, as I think we must, the amount of money that's necessary for keeping our math and science teachers in education is not great compared with the urgency of the problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to suggest that the need is today for the engineers and scientists of this country to recognize the urgency of the problem that we have in math and science education and to take action to correct that which is bordering on a national disgrace. And the national disgrace is the state of our math and science education. Now, the Institute of Electrical Electronics Engineers is an organization which is very concerned with the technological future, the future of the industries that we recognize as high-tech. And we would very much like to support the development of the excellence that is so vital in order to continue the growth of technology. And I would urge that the engineers and scientists, not only who are members of the IEEE, but throughout the world, to bring their excellence to focus upon the problem of rejuvenating, of redirecting the education that is so vital to us. A few moments ago, Jack Kin mentioned that in February, the IEEE will sponsor a technological policy conference in Washington. And the purpose of that conference is to provide an opportunity to meet with the leaders of this nation and to talk about concerns such as math and science education. We expect to have a very, very special conference this year in the year of our centennial. And I'd urge you, as Jack has, to come and join us. Perhaps as Jack mentioned to you, I believe so strongly in the need for doing something about math and science education, the need for looking to the technological future of this country, that a major part of today and tomorrow will be focused upon visits with the leaders in this country, the President's Science Advisor, the Director of the National Science Foundation. And it's my hope to talk to them, much as I'm talking to you this morning, and to urge that together the engineering and scientific communities work with the leaders of our government not only at the federal level, but at the state and local level, to seek a way that we can turn around our problems in math and science education. It's an urgent problem. It's a problem whose solution will not come instantly. It's a problem in which we must work on step by step. And I would seek your assistance in putting forth a call to all of those who understand the urgency of technology and the future of this country to come together, to awaken, to meet the call for action today. I'd like to thank you for letting me visit with you this morning, and thank you for listening to me.
Dick, don't sit down. I'm sure there are some people here who might have some questions. Sir?
Yeah, what kind of salary does a high school math or science teacher need in order to stay in the classroom as opposed to fleeing the industry?
You know, we have the concept that those who are involved in education are involved in education because of the great dedication. And frankly, that's what brings people into education today. But ultimately, the supermarket depends on receiving money as it goes across the cash register. Your dedication is not enough to feed your family. We have to provide math and science teachers with wages that are competitive to the wages they could get if they were to leave education and go to industry. And when you begin to think of that aspect, in many instances, it's necessary that we provide at least half again the salary that people presently are getting, and in many instances double it. Because you'll find that throughout the United States today, math and science education, particularly new teachers who are just graduating from school, are paid of the order of $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. Now, compared with the salaries they could find if they were graduating from an engineering school, our students are graduating and receiving twice that amount of money upon graduation. So there's an absolute necessity that we take action now to increase the salaries.
So somewhere around $30,000 would be competitive?
You need to be able to bring the new graduates up to the order of $20,000 to $25,000, the experienced teachers to $30,000 to $35,000. Yes, they must come into the salary range that is competitive with those who are involved in industry. And the average salary that we find engineers in the United States receiving today is of the order of $36,000 to $38,000, depending upon the disciplines and the areas. There's a question back here.
Where's this money going to come from?
Money's going to come from you and I, because frankly, unless we're willing to put up the money, we find that the aspect of lost competition is an aspect of lost future. And my concern is that we will not have the ability to continue to compete. Now, it's an item of really settling our priorities, because there are a number of things that we need to do with our monies. The tax dollars are stretched very thin, and we hear that over and over again. My concern is that we need to look very carefully at the priorities that are associated with spending our money, and money needs to be put into a critical area, and that's math and science education today. Now, some of those monies will have to come through taxes. And today it is very popular to turn to industry and say that industry ought to pay for it. I think industry has another role. In industry, we need to be involved in working with the local school districts, the state districts, the state educational organizations, to assist them in seeing the overview and assist them in seeing the need. I think the money has to come from you and I. We have to be willing to put our money up to really support the future of the country.
Are school boards not paying attention to this, or what kind of reaction do you get from school boards when you talk to them?
I think what happens in
curriculum and that.
Yeah. I find that as I visit throughout the United States with many of the IEEE groups and talk to them about their local problems, they find that all too often the only people who are talking about the problems are the math and science teachers themselves or the administrators. And they come to the school boards and try to alert the school boards to the problems, and we find that our school boards are looking at a myriad of problems. And you can perhaps see how easy it would be for a person on the school board who are like you and I, who may not be really aware of the concerns of the technological future, and could easily find themselves perhaps concluding that the fact that only the math and science teachers were speaking out has a feeling of being self-serving. And it's easy then to set that problem aside. That's why I call for those of us who are not involved directly within the education of math and science to stand up and to be heard. We need to be able to give credence to those who are directly involved in education today and to help them and to support them. So in fact, the leaders of education, the leaders of the school boards, the leaders of the city governments, the leaders of the state government will really believe there's a problem. I know many people that I met with who aren't even aware there's a problem. I'd rather see a Sputnik because then people would be able to appreciate there's an urgency. Please.
The young lady down at the corner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Had a hand.
Recommending a reorientation of curriculum?
Yes. Yes, I don't think we need more studies. As a matter of fact, we probably studied this problem to death. And so I'm carefully not calling for more people to go out and to try to understand if there is a problem. I think there's clearly a problem. What is needed now is action. We need people who will be able to go to our colleges of education and to work in the colleges of education to help them reorient the curriculum that we are training future teachers with. That's one concern. We need to begin to recognize that, unfortunately, and there was an article that was in EDN that I found a year or so ago that really sort of tweaked my ears very carefully. And that was an article that pointed this out. That in education today, and I mean the education of teachers for math and science education, of teachers in general, the math and science education is handled as a sub-portion of the general education of teachers. You know, there's a very, very great specialty in educating people in math and science. And we need to start with the colleges of education and to focus upon the urgency that we concentrate our resources. If you consider in many of our states, we have multiple numbers of teacher colleges. Perhaps care should be given to concentrating on an institution in an area that would become the specialized institution for preparing people for math and science education. That's one concern. Leaving those college campuses and moving towards the local schools, there's an urgency for the engineers and scientists of the community to work in support of those who are teaching in the classroom, to work in support to help them get the equipment they need, to get the information they need, frankly, to go into the classroom and to speak out, to be there in present, to show by your force of presence that, in fact, math and science is important. There's a need to sit down and to help those people who are involved in teaching math and science today, who are there not because of their background, but because of their interest, because of the need. You've heard over and over again of the number of teachers who are presently teaching math and science education who have not had the benefit of the background and education perhaps necessary to do what they'd like to do. Here's where we can come in and assist, because we're able to give some of those workshops, those short courses that perhaps would take the people who are presently involved in trying to teach math and science education and help them be better at it. I also see the need for being able to work with our governing bodies, as I indicated earlier, in helping our governing bodies gain a perspective of the urgency of this particular problem. Yes, please.
I think of the suggestion that has been made somewhere that graduate engineers spend a year or two in the classroom, possibly as a condition of paying off the government loans, state loans, so that they bring their expertise, as you say, right into the classroom, and then go on in industry. Do you see that?
There are elements of that are very interesting. Yet, I'm mindful that as you have in your years of education, that you found there are some people who are better teachers than others. And I believe that the person who's in the classroom should be there because he or she wants to be there. I'd like to see that type of a program be a program in which we permit people to enter the classroom on a positive volunteer basis. I don't believe that you constrict people to go into a classroom situation. I think that the teachers who should be there should be the teachers who want to be involved. But yes, there are many people who can go into the classroom and assist. You know, frankly, there are many people who we find who have found that it's time to step down from their active involvement in industry, to retire. There's a great resource that exists within those people in this country who have spent many, many years being involved. Now, I'll grant you there are some people who are not current, but I know many, many people. I know many people in the IEEE who have worried about their continuing education. They've worried about staying current. Those are the people I'm talking about. They can go in and contribute today. And so on, both ends. Those who are just starting, and those of us who may be reaching retirement, there's an opportunity here. Yes, please.
Related to this and what you had started talking about in the beginning was the use of computers, and the answer in many schools has just been to rush out, buy a computer, and think this will take care of the problem. What approach would you suggest to incorporating computers in the class?
You've touched upon a very, very special issue. Because all too often the answer is yes, we're going to put computers in the classroom. And we'll put some money out buying a number of computers. And the important aspect is to say, what are those computers used for? Because all too familiar is the situation in which the computer arrives in the classroom, and the programs are then placed in the computer, and the students are put off to the side to use the computer. The proper term for that is an auto-tutorial center, in which we put the computer together and we permit the person to interact with the computer in a tutorial way. And that's very popular in much of education today. My concern is that we've stopped there. We haven't really begun to use computers in education to their full capabilities. Now, perhaps you would wonder why, and that's why I decry the concern with science education. Because today, we're not prepared in our schools to really begin to use the power that exists within the computer. And it's vital that we in engineering and science work very closely with our school teachers to begin to show them what they can do with computers. Now, I'm not just speaking in terms of the gee whiz kind of problems that you go out and you sort of show that here's a nice little thing that can be done. I'm really talking about applying computers at the level of programming, applying computers to understand the problems, to help people understand the problems by applying computers. I'm concerned with being able to take our young people and have them so that they see a computer much as you and I see a piece of paper. The future of this country, the future of our society, rests upon our ability to take a computer and use it as an extension of our mind. It rests upon our ability to be able to take that computer and think with it and use it as a lever for the future. That's not happening in schools today. Rather, we're using the computer as an immediate, another delivery mechanism, much as a television would be used. That's too short a goal for the future. We need to think further. We need to begin to use computers as an extension of our ability to think. You had a question?
You had talked about critical and sour supplement. Is that something you're going to push for in the next couple of days on the Hill?
I found that early in the discussions of some of the commissions that have existed over the past few months, there was discussion about critical salary supplements. But I have to be very direct with you and tell you that in many quarters is not considered a popular recommendation. There are those who would like to see us support the question that all salaries should be increased. And I do think there's a need to look at all of the salaries that we provide to the people who we entrust with the minds of the future. But I'm concentrating today upon the salary needs of the engineering, of the mathematics and science teachers. And yes, I intend to speak out and to urge that provision be made to provide critical salary support for the math and science teachers.
Are there any other universities besides your own who instituted that program and had it work whereby you have students pay after tuition to be engineers?
Yeah, the program we actually use at our school is one that a few other schools have adopted. Mainly it's used in schools like ours, the standalone engineering schools, because it's easier for us to be able to recognize the problem of our engineering faculty. And consequently, what we've done is we charge a per credit hour additional charge for engineering courses. That money is then put aside for critical salary enhancement. It's a bonus package, in effect, for engineers, and it helps markedly. Yes, the Colorado School of Mines is another school that does this. There are other schools which, through the legislative support, have similar kinds of programs. So we think our program is working very well, and as a matter of fact, it's being picked up by a number of other schools this year. Our legislature took the action to permit us to do this, and we are a public-supported school. And frankly, I'm heartened by the realization that governing bodies, much as our legislature, understand the problem enough to say, yes, we will take action, we'll let you do that. So I'm reinforced by the realization that as a nation, the United States has been characterized by once we understand the problem, we do something about it. I'm concerned that most people do not appreciate that math and science education is on the border of a national disgrace. And if we really understood that, I think we would do something about it. That's my reason for pointing it out so clearly. I think action must be done.